Morning, I went to see my mate Anthony Albanese and informed him that I was stepping down from the shadow cabinet effective immediately. I've also just shared that news with the caucus where Anthony Albanese and Richard Marles generously paid tribute to my contribution, although I reminded them that I'm not going anywhere. The announcement today came as a surprise to very many, but not to all, particularly not the member for Paterson, who I called on election night 2019 and said, saddle up, because I'm not going back to the front bench in the wake of the very significant election loss, and I reckon you're the person who should replace me. Somehow, 24 hours later, I found myself running for the leadership. I don't want you to ask me to explain how that all happened, but I do know that in the course of that period between election night and the Monday morning, I realised that the Labor Party had been very good to me, and it was time for me to give back, and it wouldn't be the right thing to just walk away from the front bench when the party was going straight into a rebuilding process. So I decided to stick around for 18 months, I guessed, and to do everything I can in a most senior position to rebuild the party and to make it electorally more competitive. So that's what I've been doing over the course of the last 18 months. Some of you might have noticed, and I've been quite robust in some of my contributions, and I have no regrets about that. I've been trying to put Labor back into the Labor Party, trying to take the Labor Party back to its traditional roots, back to the Labor Party I knew when I first became a member 36 years ago. In particular, I've been focusing on blue-collar workers, whether they be working in coal mining, coal generation, oil and gas, our manufacturing sectors, electricians and other tradespersons, the people who have traditionally voted for us in very large number, but somehow haven't been voting for us in large number over the course of possibly the last decade. And I've seen them come up to the polling booths in their high-vis, carrying LNP How to Vote cards, carrying One Nation cards, and I asked myself, how did it all go so terribly wrong? I told the caucus this morning that I'm very strongly of the view that we have to allow candidates and local members to express the aspirations of their local communities. We cannot expect a candidate in what used to be called Batman, Jed Carney's seat, to be saying the same thing as a candidate in Flynn, in central Queensland. We have a diverse range of membership and we must speak to them all. And I think somehow over the course of the last decade, we forgot that and we lost touch with traditional working people. Now, when I say working people, I acknowledge also that nurses and aged care providers, people who work in aged care homes, in our hospitals, our police persons, they're all working Australians, and there are people amongst all of them that we've lost for various reasons. So everything I've done over the course of the last 18 months has been motivated by the same thing that has motivated me for the last 36 years. And that is to promote Labor's key ideals and objectives. Chief amongst them, from my perspective, is equality of opportunity, and to do everything I can to ensure the electability, if that's a word, of a Labor government. Hundreds and thousands, if not millions of people rely on us to form a Labor government from time to time. You know, the true definition of conservatism, of course, is to oppose change. Well, that's all right if you're doing just fine. But there are a lot of Australians that aren't doing just fine, and we do have growing inequality in our country. So we need a Labor Party, a Labor government, to close that gap and to speak out for the people who need a hand up. But of course, we also need to talk to aspiration. Those coal miners on $150,000, $200,000 a year, who have big mortgages, but have worked hard and made big decisions on behalf of their family, who can't afford to have politicians precipitously close down their industries. We've got to speak for them as well. We have to back their aspiration. You know, the roles of government are pretty basic, really. Keep our people safe, establish good foreign and trading relations, build a strong economy and therefore the tools required, both infrastructure and human capital, keep people safe in our workplaces and make sure that they are well rewarded for their effort, and of course making sure that we have an education system starting from the earliest years that allows every person an equal opportunity to participate in our economy. And finally, dignity in retirement. Now, I think that's what the Labor Party stands for, and I'll add one, an efficient tax system that incentivises work rather than does the opposite. So that's what I'll continue to pursue. I will always stand up for the interests of my electorate. There's been a lot of talk that many of the things I've said over the course of the last 18 months have been in response to my experience in my electorate at the last election. And while that, of course, is partly true, or largely true, I would be a foolish politician not to respond to such a large swing. Some people around here would be very happy to have a 3% margin. And I remind you all that I had a 3.8% margin after the 2013 election. I've been here before. And while I don't take my electorate for granted and never will, I reckon if they didn't get me last time, they probably never will. It was a perfect storm. But I will continue to be a very strong voice on their behalf, and I'll call out policy, including Labor policy, which I don't think is in their interest.